Good Sunday morning. I got my mic fixed. If you saw my last live stream from yesterday, I just had to get it out. So I didn't have my mic, but we have it now. So all is well. If you haven't seen, I just put out my new video on my React portfolio. It came out today. It should have come out yesterday, but I forgot to hit the publish button on YouTube. So a lot of L's is what they've been saying, the cool kids. But, getting through it. So today, the main thing is working on the next video, which is research and discovery. And I talked about that yesterday, about looking over different sites. So it's definitely something I'm excited to look into. What's going on, Ramsey? Thanks for coming by. How you doing? Remind me where you're from again, Ramsey. I'm just basically saying, hey, yesterday I didn't have my mic and stuff, and so now I moved on to React. I got that second video out, and I just had to show you something actually that was kind of funny in this coffee shop that I come to all the time. I was looking through some of the books because sometimes I'll put my mic on the books to get it closer to my mouth, to my voice. And this book right here, or here, let me switch cameras here. This book, JavaScript, Concepts and Techniques for Programming Interactive Websites. Pretty cool thing. It's just a book that was here. It was written in 2003, so maybe not North Carolina. Awesome. Maybe not up to date, but it's cool to see things like this around town, because even though everyone's saying, oh, it's all about the coding, you don't really see too much about it. Even my son actually is. His class, they have some coding curriculum there, and it's about like refactoring and functional programming. So it's everywhere, but it's nowhere at the same time. How's your day going, Ramsey? Just gonna go ahead and switch over to the dashboard here. Give me just a second here. I actually have someone asked me questions on Facebook, so I thought, hey, come on over. If you're ever over there, come on over to my live stream. So I appreciate the wait here. So yeah, we're here to talk about web development. I talked about the React portfolio. I'm going to try to get that video out today. I don't think it will be too hard. Research and discovery is a lot easier, where I'm not having to make up the slide decks and do any of that. It's more like on screen, show some examples, move on. I've already done that a few times live, so it's not a big deal, actually. Nothing too hard to do. With web development, it's moving all the time. Ramsey says, well, it's going so far. I was just sitting down to work on some portfolio stuff. Me too. Sitting down is hard stuff. I hope if you've had a chance to watch like my 2 videos so far, I hope that gives you some idea of how I'm doing things, of how I've seen different companies do things, or I've done things for other projects as well, when it comes to like website stuff or portfolio stuff. And everyone's different, I'm kind of doing like a full website thing. That's kind of what I know best. But I've seen one-page SPAs, especially if you don't have a lot of work or a lot of experience or any of that. One-page React portfolio or one-page portfolio in general can be great. You have to have something to show, right? So I'm going to go ahead and actually share this live stream with the Facebook group, as I always do. If you have any questions and you're watching this at a later time, of course you can always ask in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. The more in-depth the question is, well, the longer it's going to take me to get to it. But I will do my best. I go through usually every week and go through this stuff. Hey George, how's it going? Did I have a mentor through my journey? That's a great one, George. And thanks for coming over to the live stream. So for me, there wasn't like an actual person to be my mentor. However, I did ask a lot of people. I knew some graphic designers, so I would ask them for opinions and input. But I wouldn't say they were my mentors per se, but they did definitely help. So those were some of my mentors, and then just a bunch of people on YouTube, kind of making my own mentors, but not necessarily like an actual live mentor that I talk to all the time. But I do try to stay in contact with like-minded people, and that helps. That kind of is that's kind of what I've used to gain quote-unquote mentors. Oop, you need a website. Sorry about that. You probably heard that through the desktop. I'm just copying a link here. Whew. Okay, let's get that off there. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Let me know if it doesn't. Let me know where you're coming in from, George, by the way. I'm sure you've been on here before, but I apologize if I haven't remembered. Ramsey says, exactly, I'm trying to make about 8 single-page sites, then take it to a larger project. Yeah, single-page sites are great. That's why these mobile developers look like super awesome, because they can make something quick and clean and fast. So that's not a bad way to go at all. I mean, just getting started is the most important thing, and that's hard. So yeah, let's see. And I'm just sharing the link with people so they can come and visit, because sometimes it doesn't get out to everyone. The algorithm for YouTube is funky. I'm from Ohio, or OHIO. He says Ohio. Very nice. Cool, George. I swear, I think you were here last time. So my apologies. George, what are you looking into? Like, where are you in your journey? I always like to ask you guys what's where you're coming in from, and what part of the process you're in. Helps me with content, and also gives me a chance to see if I can give you some suggestions if I've already been in your shoes, in that spot where you're at currently. And you know, it's nice to get a few different people here. I did start a little earlier than usual, which is fine. I usually start around like 10, but I need to get my day started so I can make up for that other video, because I want to get these, especially like these non-coding videos, I want to get them out as soon as possible. It's a balancing act. Ramsey says, Ricky, you should do a video about how to set up and push to GitHub. I just did it yesterday, and it was much easier than I thought. Yeah, it can be. It depends, Ramsey, but yes, it's very intimidating, especially if you've never used the command line, right? To make a push. When it gets tricky is like merging and all that stuff. But if you just need to do a simple push to GitHub, you're right. It's not that hard. You just have to follow the directions. But if you're not used to reading command line stuff, it can be dang hard. For me, it was really hard. But it was like at the start of my journey, I was doing everything all at once, and HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Git, and so I was able to get my stuff up. But I had a Windows machine, and there was some like internal thing that messed it up. But things are getting better all the time for Windows users. Git too, Git Bash. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thanks Ramsey, appreciate it. So I should just get a better GitHub. I need to make this GitHub. I mean, I have a few projects, some random projects, but at least they're there, right? It's always like, well, what do I put up, or something like that. I guess putting up something that's in the space that you're at is better, much better than nothing. So yeah, I should definitely look into doing more of those. It's hard though, man, because just keeping up with the content machine, feeding the beast, so to speak, is it's a little bit different with every piece of content. So the first time you make it is really hard. I haven't done something like that. These are kind of related, but like that first video I made for this series, it took a long time. The second one, not nearly as long, because I had some of the information there and how I wanted to structure it. So I can keep that in mind. My main goal, though, is just to power through this portfolio, 1, so you guys can get the information as soon as possible, and 2, so you can actually, so I can, excuse me, get my portfolio out there and finish the project up. It does take a lot longer. It takes a lot longer than you would think sometimes for these videos, and then when you're making this stuff, because you could just like write it and move on to the next one, or come back and stuff. When I'm doing these videos, what it does is it forces me to really understand what I'm going to say to you guys and make sure what I'm saying is true or something. Like even in the overview section, the first video I did, I had to read a few like a few resources just on software architecture to make sure what I was saying was correct. And then in this one, like the user journey and sitemaps, I had to do a quick brush up to make sure what I was saying was correct, or I was doing a decent job. And so it takes a little while longer, but of course it comes out better, and I learned so much more. George says, I'm currently working on a personal website for my daughter's crocheting business. All my children are grown now, and I'm pursuing my dream from high school. Sweet. I would say use Squarespace or WordPress, but if it's your dream to do web development and you want to do that stuff, definitely, you know, do it. But Squarespace is a great option. You can do some custom CSS and HTML, and then like all the stuff like the store and stuff can be handled for you as well. But if she just needs something and you want a project, like she just needs something to say, hey, this is what I do, and she doesn't have to handle payments or anything like that, and you just want a project, yeah, absolutely, George. So very cool. Cool stuff. What are some of the online or what are some of the resources that you've used, George, to kind of get your journey started? I'm just going to see how the live stream's doing. It usually takes like somewhere in between 20 to 30 minutes is where the live stream usually starts to take off, and we get some feedback. Also, if you guys do like this content, please let me know by giving me a like. That always helps. Or if you know someone that could use this, go ahead and share it with them. Of course, it's only if it's useful to them, and it helps me out a ton. So I appreciate you guys being here, by the way, while we wait for more people to be here. It takes time, man. I guess, Ramsey, you were talking about GitHub, and if you're looking to learn more about GitHub, I took a few online courses, but there's always one that sticks out, that kind of helped me really bring this stuff together. Now, it's not the same as when you're in an actual like environment where you have to branch and you have to merge, but it's what got me up there, so I didn't make tons of mistakes all the time, and prepared me for when we did do that. I was so happy at work. We were using a different version control system other than Git, but because I had this foundation, not just from doing my own projects, but from going through a course, it helped out so much. So let me go ahead and find it, and I'll share the screen with you. All right, so Jason Taylor, he has, I think, wow, he has like 3. So Command Line Essentials for Windows, if you're using a Windows machine. Complete the definitive guide, which I love, but this one I think is Git for Geeks is free, and it's on Udemy. So check that out. He's not a graphic designer, but his stuff is still thought out. It may not be aesthetically pleasing all the time, but it makes sense, and Jason does a great job helping you get up to speed on Git. You can also read like the Git book. So that's the course I did on Udemy. So I guess it is. I guess it is the right course. Let me know how it helped you out there. Hey man, it's always good. Hey Jas, nice to see you. Which is the best budget laptop for web development for a beginner? Jas says. You know what? That's a question I haven't answered before, and it's not a bad one. Basically, don't get a Chromebook. Don't get a Chromebook, number one, Jas. It depends on what you're doing, Jas. For web development for a beginner, I would say like the consumer, like the mid-high consumer grade laptop is is what I would go for. That's what I would look into, to be honest. Something like that. If you're not doing video, if you're not doing Photoshop, and you're just like moving images around and stuff, then that's fine. Now, there's a few things though with that. If you're like, hey, I want to get these images done, and I want to process images, or I want to shoot video and stuff, you're gonna have to go a little bit higher, like the high end on consumer grade, like 800 to 1200, if not like 700-ish, is my opinion. I haven't bought a laptop in a long time though, so there's something to keep in mind when doing these things. So we can just look at a laptop here. Let me go ahead and pull out these laptops. Sorry, I'll switch here. It's confusing, I know, so I appreciate you. Tell me which company means. Tell me, can tell me company means which brand. Jess, can you try to reword that? I apologize. I had difficulty understanding that, and that's on me, not you, Jazz. Jazz says, and how much does the RAM need for beginner? Oh, so like super specs. For RAM, I'd say like, it depends on what you want to do with it, man. But at least 4 gigs of RAM. I mean, you could have 2 gigs, but 8. Actually, I would say like 8 to 16 if you're going to grow into it. I know it's for a beginner, but if you're doing like a PC and you can swap out the RAM, 8 gigs is all right. If you're going to do any like Photoshop or something like that, definitely 8 to 16 gigs to manipulate images and stuff. And the thing is, like I said, you need to be able to grow into it. So having a fast processor, having a graphics card, those are all things that are important. But like you said, I don't want to discourage you from getting started. So something that you can go ahead and use, let's say like, we're going to want at least, you know, a lot of these people use like a 12-inch monitor. That ain't good. You need a lot of space. Ramsey says 4 gig min and RAM, you'll be fine doing web dev. Yeah, RAM, sorry. Yeah, I apologize there. For me, like I said, it depends on what you're going to do with the stuff. Because you get into web development and you just think you're going to push things to the page, and that might be different. It's not like we're cranking out like a ton of code, because basically your code has to run for the web and for like crappy machines. So Ramsey has a good point there. 8 gigs of RAM here, 1 terabyte. So I mean, there's a few things here. The only thing that I would say when talking about these things is I wouldn't want you to get like a really like crappy laptop and then be like, it doesn't work, or it doesn't suit my needs. So something like, and you don't have to get this exact model, but something in like this range, I guess, because I haven't bought a laptop in a while. 8 gigs, DDR4, that's good, and 15-inch. So, and it's Lenovo, my favorite. So let me know if that helps, and if you guys have better ideas, if you've been through this recently, let me know. When I buy laptops, I have to worry about a bunch of things like the Intel, like the processor, and then the how much RAM and the graphics card, because I'm doing video as well, and photography and all that stuff, and putting it in there. So hope I didn't ramble off too much there. Does that answer your question, Jazz? George says, I've been trying to make a career change. I'm taking a few online resources. I'm in Team Treehouse and also coding phase. Also Udemy, waiting on your courses. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm a stickler for production, and I want to be right. I've only been in this industry officially for a year, pretty close to a year. When I moved here, when I officially started was on the 8th at my job, but I think like the 15th is when I consider myself starting. So it hasn't been too long. I really want to make sure that everything is correct and right in production and my knowledge. So if you're looking to make a career change, there are a few things here, George, like when you're looking into these things that a lot of people don't talk about, and I'm not saying it's directly towards you or anything like that, but learning how to type well, type quote-unquote fast, And I don't mean hey, let's type, and I can type 110 words per minute, right? But learning how to type efficiently is critical, because you're not going to be focusing on like which buttons to press, and break your concentration from what you're trying to do, whether that be position an element, or do some jQuery or JavaScript or React, do some programmatic code, and you had to break your train of thought to find which key you're looking at. Now, I don't know if that's something that you need to work on, but for anyone starting new, if you're okay at typing, like say 24 words per minute, get that up, and that's going to help. Also, keyboard shortcuts, same thing. Alt tab, everything. Then learning the shortcuts to navigate from your keyboard. Like I use Control Shift all the time with my keyboard. Control A to select everything. Control C, V, all those things. And then being able to move around lines of code by holding Control Shift and pushing the arrow key up, and then Alt. It's a little bit different on each text editor, but those are things that are really, really valuable that no one really says. Jazz says, in India I'm in India. Can I learn development at home by internet because I can't afford paid courses? By paid courses, do you mean like college courses? Udemy is a great option, but you still have to pay for some of those courses. Free Code Camp is another one. I know Coding Tutorials 360, who is Dylan. I'm sorry. He went through Free Code Camp. I'm sure he used a lot of courses as well. That's what I did. I have my degree in economics. I don't have a degree in computer science or anything even remotely close. I worked at a bank as a e-services specialist, so all the online products, but it wasn't really technical, but I did get to use a lot of Office programs and do some things, and we did a website refresh, and I got to be part of, like everyone in the company did, but we got to be part of like a brainstorming event and stuff. It was super interesting, and it kind of got me in there. Plus I couldn't move up, so because I couldn't move up, I had to learn something else, and that was probably my intro there, because I learned a lot about the Office products. I taught even 4 courses on different Office products, and then I also learned how to make like presentations and then record them with Camtasia and with PowerPoint. So it was my foot in the door. Ramsey says, I bought Lenovo Yoga when I started, but later realized it has way more than I needed, but I still love it. If people are on a serious budget, they can do a Lenovo ThinkPad. ThinkPads are the best. A T430, and put a Linux on it. You see, I used ThinkPad before this computer, and it's actually my favorite laptop. It's chunky, it's heavy, but I'll tell you what, man, that thing it can take abuse. This current laptop that I have here is pretty frail. It's like consumer, and it's sleek and has all the hip things, but it's frail. And so I beat it up over the years, over just 2 or 3 years. So ThinkPads are good, and excellent. Thanks for contributing, Ramsey, there, because I'd be like, yeah, buy the best. But if you're on a budget and you want to get started, you know what, Ramsey knows. The other thing, though, is if you see what he said there over here, is that he said that it was way more than he needed. But the thing is he doesn't have to grow into it, he can grow into it. He doesn't have to buy a whole new laptop to do so. And if you look at it hey, I'm not going to college, if you're if it's expensive here in the US, and you're kind of seeing it as an investment in your future, well, heck, then it's worth it. Or this is my extended education, then it's super cheap. Just make sure to keep those things in mind. It's funny because I've talked to a few people before this who got Windows, and they were like, oh, it's not as good as Apple, but they're comparing their $400 or $500 Windows laptop to a MacBook Pro. Of course it's not going to be the same. You're going to have to buy an expensive PC, but not as expensive as a Apple laptop. But then again, if you have an Apple laptop, you can code on anything, anywhere. So George says, do you think for a front-end developer you'll need to learn Photoshop? You know, George, it depends. I've heard some people say no. It really depends on your area, is what I think. For me, there's no, like, hardly any developers or web designers. And there's some graphic designers, but everything's focused on print here. And that can drive you crazy. You know, if you're trying to work with a print designer or something like that that's trying to do a website. I would say it depends. Like for me, I have to, because there's no one in this area. And even some back-end stuff I have to do as well. So if you have a lot of people in your area, or you're planning to move somewhere that like web development is hot, probably not, but it definitely won't hurt at all. That's one of those skills that are great to have to go with front-end development. Ramsey says, really? At Jazz, I'm a student, not have money to buy a laptop. Can you donate for me? Really? Alright. I'm sorry, Jazz, but no. I'm gonna have to remove that comment over here, but you know, I guess it doesn't hurt for the ask, but no, I can't do that for you. You're gonna have to figure something else out there. So yeah, I apologize about that. I'm here to help you. You know, I can give you advice. I can look at some things, but as far as like donating a laptop, I can't do that for you. So my apologies. It's kind of quiet today. I'm not at my usual upload time, so there's that. Have any of you watched my React video, the one that just came out this morning? Let me know. And if you did, let me know what you thought. Sorry about the wait here. Just got uncomfortable in the chat for a minute. Arslan says, "Sir, what kind of questions should I expect for a web developer interview for Amazon? Because they're coming for placement in my college." I haven't had an Amazon interview myself, but from what I've heard is algorithms. Know your algorithms for the most part. Of course, know some like how to position stuff, but it's very heavy on technical interview stuff. So look up front-end developer questions like FizzBuzz, of course. Of course, you got to know FizzBuzz. Ramsey says he hasn't had a chance to watch that yet. Well, after this, if you have time, watch it. Let me know what you think. If you're looking into doing React or anything like that. Super early upload. Yeah, actually, Ramsey, it's kind of funny. I uploaded this last night. No, you're from North Carolina, so it would have been even earlier. I think you're from North Carolina. Anyway, and I forgot to hit the publish button. So I just woke up, and it forced me to wake up earlier than normal, which was actually great, and press the upload button. So. Okay, well, Jazz, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to put you in timeout. Give me just a moment here. This is for those of you who don't know, and I don't know if I can actually say this. I mean, I don't think I have to say this, but unfortunately, don't be asking for laptops or money in the chat. So my apologies. I'm sorry I had to do that. Anyway, so Arslan says they're coming for interview questions. Anything else than FizzBuzz? Do they tell you to make a UI or search functionality? I haven't been interviewed by Amazon, and I don't know a lot of people who have. All I know is that they ask a lot of technical questions. So there's Stephen Grider's course on Udemy. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you. Which would probably be your best bet. Now, Arslan, how well do you know JavaScript and your CSS and Sass and stuff? Let me know, because that's going to really affect what you're going to have to know. Sorry about the wait here. Alright, so here are Stephen Greider's courses. ES6, if you don't know any of that, check that out. Or Pluralsight has one by Mark Zamoyda, great. But this is the coding interview boot camp, algorithms and data structures. He has a really good a course on these things, but if you're not familiar with ever doing algorithms or doing a bunch of code, I would suggest doing a different course. So give me just a moment here and we'll go back and check that out. This learning algorithms in JavaScript, which is much simpler, just using plain old ES5 JavaScript with Eric Traub. He also has one on data structures. Definitely check those out. Do your algorithms by hand, like learn them, do them in the in the browser, or do them in your editor, and then write it down, and then be able to do it from memory and write it down. So so you're learning from the Ninja JavaScript book and polishing my skills. Yeah, you're going to want to polish your skills a lot for this stuff. And just in general, once you learn algorithms, man, it's so much easier. So much easier. My biggest mistake was just never going into that, never going into algorithms until the end of this year, or the end of my first year. I say the last 3 months or so, 3 or 3.5 months. And holy crap, like that helped me do anything I want to do in the browser. George says, I did watch both of them. I'm really thinking about using React and Redux for my front end work. Your video had a lot of important content. I really dig your behind the scenes. A lot of cuts. Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot to edit. My suggestion though, first, George, is like you're becoming a front end developer, so UI and all that stuff, you don't have to do it. I do it because personally, like it's just my personality, my nature to learn about everything I can. So back end, UI, marketing, all that stuff. My pleasure, Arslan. So if you don't have like the algorithms down or something like that, like I was talking about, do that. If you don't have like a strong foundation on JavaScript or jQuery or any of those things that you think you're going to need to use, do that. I still believe everyone should learn a little bit of jQuery. A little bit of jQuery is important, just because there's legacy stuff, and you're going to be able to work with the code really fast and get some cool results. What's up, Corey? Thanks for coming by. I started a lot earlier than normal, so yeah. My apologies. I got up early and just thought, hey, let's go ahead and get this thing started. So with JavaScript, and I do this like almost every single time I get this question on this live stream, but probably like the easiest one to get started with is A Smarter Way to Learn JavaScript. I love this. It's a very simple book, and it's done by like a Harvard professor is what I think it was, and so he's a professor first, and then he learned JavaScript second. So he was a newbie coming into this, and he knew how to teach. So he's coming from a very different perspective than a lot of these other books, like You Don't Know JS, which is fantastic, by the way. You should definitely check that out. But these are some cheap books. They've kind of gone up in price, but they're still super cheap. It's not so much like a book that you read. Like, it's like you do an exercise, you learn something very quickly, and then you go into like the web browser, and then you do his exercises right after you did it. So it's great to really start from scratch, or really get those basic commands in. Ramsey says, thanks a lot. The JS recommendation. Today is the last day for the $11.99 sale on Udemy. That's what they say, but there's always another coupon coming around the corner. But you know, I fall victim to that too. Like, oh, it's $15 right now. I better buy it right now before it goes up in price. So it works. Still, that's super cheap for some of these resources. So yeah, Corey knows what's up. Corey knows. Always on sale. So just a FYI. Don't believe the last day stuff. Yeah, it's just to get you to buy, that call to action, and it works. It works so well. Yeah, I think Udemy is where I spent most of my money for online learning. Not most of my time, but just because you pay per course. But it's still a great place. It's still a great place to learn. Definitely check it out. So Corey, what's new with you? What are you working on? At the beginning of the stream, I was telling people, or I was saying how I was working on React, and I'm going to do research and discovery, which is basically just go around the web, look for things that I like, do maybe a little bit of digging into the technology, but nothing really super in-depth with technology, because that's going to be more like the software architecture side. So, and as always, if you have a question, just let me know, and I'll do my best to answer it right away. Or if you have a comment or anything, you know, I appreciate it. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section. And if you like this stuff, give me some of these, and subscribe if you haven't. If you're coming through here and you like this content, of course subscribe. I put up new videos like every week for sure. Or I try my best, whether it's live or produced. Produced video takes a long time, so it's hard to hit those. But I'm going to stick to a schedule of at least one video a week, if not more, to power through this portfolio, because heck, I want the portfolio piece myself. It's not just like, oh, I just like gotta get this video out, or I gotta do it for subscribers. So high incentive for me to get these done on time. Sorry about the wait here, just waiting for the comments to go off. Or pop off, I guess. Shift. That's a horrible joke. Comments dot pop. I guess I could ask you guys, like, how many people have you run into that are like passionate about web development in real life? Corey's up to, he's doing an app like Tinder with React Native. Well, there are a bunch of those out there that you could probably get inspiration from. On Shark Tank, there was this one called Coffee Meets Bagel, and that's something you could do. I think there was like also an application. Sup, David? Thanks for coming by, man. I think there was an application that was like, this guy made like a Tinder app, but like for himself. Like he was the only person that they could date, and it was like wildly successful. So, you know, maybe that. George says, thanks. I also purchased HTML, CSS, jQuery, JavaScript from John Duckett. Excellent book. Definitely getting a smarter way to learn JavaScript. Yeah, that one with John Duckett is good. But this is more like the smarter way to learn JavaScript is like you're going to be actively learning a lot. Like you read what you're going to do, you log on to like the online website, which is like a quick coding thing, and you have to code it out. Now, it's not perfect, at least from when I was there. He probably updated it by now. But you just have to know that sometimes there were like a few bugs. It was done by like one guy, everything. But I'm sure it's a lot better now. If anything, it's not worse. But definitely worth it. It takes away the like needing to know about everything. So you just do that like exact piece of code, and doing some algorithms, of course. But if you're like kind of like in your journey, do a smarter way to learn JavaScript to get started. David, what have you been up to, man? What have you been up to? Any projects, anything like that? Also, I feel like a crazy person here because it's like super quiet today, and like I'm extra loud just talking to my computer, like a crazy person. But you know, do you? I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna do me. You know, one thing that I want to know about from you guys, what do you, for those of you who this applies to, what do people think about when you say, hey, I'm going to do web development, or hey, I'm studying web development, and how have people responded to that for you guys? For me, it was, oh, okay, like either they didn't believe me or they had doubt, and that's okay, you know, that happens. But let me know what's been happening for you guys. David says, working on a stock portfolio project with a compound interest calculator. Oh, I read that wrong. Like, I thought like stock photography portfolio for you. Like, what's that? So that's pretty cool, man. Compound interest. That's a good one to take that basic calculator app and tweak it, make it kind of unique, and learn some new things. Cool stuff, David. Good stuff. Ramsey says, no one I know is interested in code. Same. Well, not same. No one's interested specifically in front-end development. Ramsey says, plus I work with a bunch of hippies. They only use a computer to buy kombucha by the case. Hey, but they're still using it. They're still using that what is that, e-commerce stuff. You work with a bunch of people who are passionate about e-commerce. You can always swap it around. If you can usually make connections with people too. You might not think about it, but you can usually make a connection to people who aren't really technical about it. Like someone told me, oh, I prefer using IE11. It's worked with my computer for years, or Internet Explorer. And so I kind of explained the history of where the web browsers are today versus where they were, and how it works, probably because she's used it forever on that old computer, and some of the downsides of that, how it's not supported anymore, and how Edge is taken over, and some of the properties that don't work with that, and that's why websites look broken sometimes on IE11. So usually you can relate it. Once you start knowing your stuff, you can talk about like, oh yeah, e-commerce, this is how it works, without being like nerdy. It's gonna take some time though to hone that skill. And I'm not the best at it, but I'm getting better all the time and trying to explain this stuff to technical people, or vice versa. Something that's not technical to technical people. Like say in my department, we need this. And why do we need this? Well, this is why. Like, oh, we need a video up there. Why? Like, it's a lot of memory. Well, let me compress it, but this is why, and things like that. So, Ramsey says, same reaction you get from most people. They ask if you can hack something. Ugh. I haven't had that one, but actually I have. So I feel for you, man. I feel for you. And they ask if you can hack something, or Jenna, Edge is just as hard as IE, pretty much. I don't know. I don't know about that, but as far as like me, where I'm going through Edge right now, and coding a website, there's definitely just some gotchas in IE11 that are kind of weird that you don't get. But that's just my opinion. Like say like the auto, like if you use auto for like margin, it doesn't work. You have to specify 0, or if you want to use like anything like that, it doesn't work in IE11. Anyway, yeah, the other reaction I get when someone knows that I'm into web development, or I'm a front-end web developer, it depends on how well versed they are, but if they're not very versed in technology, they'll ask me if I can fix their printer or their computer or something like that, because I'm the whiz kid. So that's kind of funny. And thanks for coming by, Jenna. I don't think I've seen you in the comments before. Is this your first time here? Just hanging out. How long have we been going on this thing? I've been doing this live stream for a while now. 43 minutes. I'm about to hit my hour. So, give me just a moment here. See how much battery life I have. I could plug this laptop in. I got 46% battery. We'll be all right. Cool, Jenna. Thanks for coming by. I always appreciate it when you when we get someone new and they contribute. I really like that. So even though I might not agree with you on Internet Explorer and Edge, hey, I'm happy to have you here, by all means. Jenna, where are you in your journey? Do you work as a developer? Are you looking to become a developer or a programmer? Let me know, and that's always something that we want to do, is talk about where we're from and how I can talk about that. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to address them. Granted, I've only been in this for a year, but you know, I'll do my best to help you out. And if I don't, I'll let you know. David says, bro, these requests at work to fix the printer scanner, it's so true. Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, David. Luckily I don't get that at work too much, but like, you know, from someone else, like, hey, or they get the graphic designer and developer mixed up, or the print designer and developer mixed up. Like, yes, I can make things display on the web, but it's going to be very different than setting up like this banner or poster. Well, let's just make it 96 DPI. That's not going to be good for print. You got to have like 300 max, but then you got to set bleeds and all that stuff, which I haven't done in a long time or frequently. I've only done it a few times, and so that's kind of hard. It's so weird to see daylight right now. John Hayes says, give me a little bit of more context on there, John. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Jenna says, I started as a graphic designer. From there, I went into web design. Very cool. Yeah, very cool. In this group that I'm on, Facebook, I don't know if that's where you came from, but I put a comment like, is it just me, or do designers drive developers crazy? I guess I should have specified print designers can drive developers crazy. And so, yeah, I'm happy that more people like you who are doing graphic design moved into web design. Those are the kind of people we need to work with. They definitely can make our jobs much easier. So you start teaching yourself code and to make it more valuable and make more money. Absolutely, you know. Print is great. Flyers are great. We still need them, but I feel like it's getting more commoditized. Like, you can kind of like do a lot of that in one place, and then, you know, it only reaches so far and for so much money too, right? Granted, like, websites are expensive and we got to pay these people a lot, but the reach is just not the same. So, yeah. John says, I live in Moscow. It's 7 p.m. here. Moscow, Russia? Or Moscow, Idaho? No, that's funny. There's a Moscow, Idaho, where I'm from Idaho, of course, if you didn't know that. So cool. Nice to see daylight. I know the seasons are kind of changing too, so thanks for coming by. I know it's kind of late out there, so appreciate you coming. Yeah, where'd you do a lot of your learning, Jenna? I learned from everywhere. Udemy, Udacity, Pluralsight, you name it. I just took any online or even book resource that I thought was going to be good and used it. Jenna says, I feel like web is the future. I feel like it's the present, to be honest. In my opinion, I see more jobs for web than print. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Or the same jobs for web and less jobs for print, which is also scary. There's a lot more context that you have to have, right? Even if you're going to do something interactive, they kind of expect the web designer to know some programming, right? You can't just know HTML and CSS. You have to also know how to make interactive elements. And if you kind of code it up crappy and it's not optimized, then there's like a runtime complexity of O of n squared, or O of n, like, you know, like I can't remember all my O's, but if it's not optimized, you have a bunch of nested for loops or something like that, it's going to screw up your website and it's going to screw up your performance. So you have to know a lot of different things than print. John says, I'm learning right now, having trouble with JavaScript, but I'm getting there in the grow with Google Scholarship right now. Sweet, John. I had a hard time with JavaScript, to be honest. Like, I study it. And where I had the most growth, as I've said over in this live stream already, so I apologize, algorithms. Algorithms, do them. There's some Udemy courses. You can look later and go back and see Udemy courses by Eric Traub and Stephen Greider on algorithms and data structures. And yeah, Russia, so night right now. Yeah, do the algorithms. You're going to learn JavaScript so much better, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. Console.log is your friend. Put it everywhere. And then what I did that was different too was, like, I would format my console.log. So I put like a console.log that had the information that I wanted to see, and then like a console.log with a bunch of like equal signs out. So it's like a break in a line, and then I could see stuff and separate things out like that. and that helped out a ton. And then write them down. So Jenna says, I started on Lynda, learned HTML, CSS there. At first, I never touched JavaScript because I didn't have the confidence that I could learn JavaScript. After a while, I wanted to take it more seriously. Right. You know, that coding is hard stuff. It's you know, it's just so abstract. HTML, CSS is a weird abstract way of thinking of things too, though. Or like, even I remember like one of the first things I learned was to make an image appear, and it kind of like boggled my mind how to grab an image in the source tag, right? The ... slash ... like I was like, that doesn't, I'm not like grabbing anything, but yeah, so I don't blame you. It's always like a bunch of stuff to learn, and it's a weird way of thinking how what we have on the page, you know, what translates on the page is nothing like what we write. Where at least with graphic design, okay, I want it to look like this. I can sketch it out or something, and then I can move the mouse there and stick that image. Whereas like, well, if I want to stick there, I gotta float right, or you know, flexbox this, write this out in this file, but then I gotta go into this other like file and then write out this code. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Thanks for that. I'll take advice into account for sure. Yeah, my pleasure, John. Jenna says, so I signed up for Team Treehouse. I completed the front-end developer track. Me too. Good job. I still don't feel ready, so I am now taking a web dev bootcamp with Colt Still on Udemy, which is a great course. Those algorithms, a smarter way to learn JavaScript. I'll put that up again because I think I still have that tab up. Give me just a moment here, and I'll share the screen again. This was a great one for me. It was one of those like spots where I had more confidence after going through them. If you learn JavaScript and jQuery here, going through this book, it's really short, like iterations. Like you're going to learn something really quick, and you go into the web browser, into like the coding environment, and code it up, like that immediately. So each chapter is like 15 minutes or something, and then you do the online practice, which is like 10 minutes, and you can do it again and again, and that should help get you up to speed. John says, I'm doing it too, Jenna. The JavaScript from him is helping a lot. Good. I'm glad to know that, because I've heard so many good things about this Colt Still course, but for me, you know, there's only so many days, there's only so many hours in a day in between doing videos and doing this React stuff. Do I really want to go back? I have a pretty strong grasp. David Yang says, I'll catch you later, man. Keep killing it. Almost at the 2.5K mark. Indeed. Hey, thanks for dropping by, David. I appreciate you coming by. Yeah, have a good night or have a good day. You keep on killing it. Get that calculator app out. Jenna Malone says, yes, I'm finally understanding JS now at John Hayes. Sweet. Good to know. Yeah. Cool stuff. I think I like this Colt Still guy. Do you guys have any questions that you want to ask me? You guys and gals, I should say. Everybody. Let's not be, you know, let's be gender neutral here. So, let me know, because we're coming up on the hour mark here, where usually is where I cut these live streams off. An hour live stream so I can get the rest of my day started. How long did it take you to get proficient enough to work? Well, proficient, that depends. It's for everyone, right? To do my quote-unquote job, and just do my job, I think I started actually doing stuff like the next week, but it was very hard. But still, I was fixing things, I was applying things to the page, I was doing things like that, basic things in like HTML and CSS, a little bit of jQuery, and then I moved on. Like, I needed to create a landing page in 6 months, so I had to set up MongoDB, do some Ajax stuff, set up a form, design it, and that took about 6 months. Now to really know my job and go beyond that, it took a year, maybe not. I could have done it in like 9 months, but now I'm redesigning the entire site and redesigning the architecture, which is great because it goes hand in hand with this React portfolio. That's what inspired me for this project. Even though I had to get it done, there was no better time because I'm doing both at the same time, just differently. So now it's like, okay, we should partition this data here, and it includes scripts because it's ASP, and then we should not like cram all these styles here, and make it flat, and use BEM, and then use SAS and partition all the different data to match what we've partitioned with the ASP scripts. And then using jQuery to do all the interactive stuff on the site that we didn't have before, like a bunch of like logic for when you're interacting with the menu. Like if I click on it, how's that going to work? And why would I do that? If I click off, does the menu disappear? Things like that. So I can do that now. That would take me about 9 months. I know that sounds awful, but it's not just like, oh, let's just make this work and just throw it in there. It's very intentional. There's a strict naming convention. Optimization is taken into consideration, and removal of a lot of external libraries. jQuery, like UI, I remove that. Bootstrap, remove that. So it's all my own stuff. I don't know if that answers your question directly, but let me know if that gives you some idea. Anyone else? We're coming up on the hour mark here. And if you guys have questions, I always stay longer. It's not like, it is exactly 60 minutes. I can't answer any more questions. Thanks, John. I'm glad to address that for you. And it's different in every company too, right? Some other things that I did were emails, and sometimes it's just making them look better, or fixing something, or creating a whole new email up. But I took it one step further, where I learned a lot more about modularization. Ooh, that's a word. And I was able to use that with the MailChimp emails, and just breaking things up into components and stuff. It was nasty, because email's nasty, but you can have like hundreds of layouts instead of like making a specific layout, and it all works. So yeah, some good books to read that I'm going to let you know more about that, because we haven't talked about it, but we're talking about getting better at these things. Some good books to read on coding in general are Clean Code. Let me go ahead and share this here. Sorry about the wait. Clean Code, which is essential, to be honest. It's so important. I read this book over the past, like, right before I did this project, so a little over a month ago, and it really helped a lot with some of these choices that I'm making now. Like, oh, it's a really long name. Well, is it specific? Do you understand? Yes, that's okay for this variable. Keeping all these things in mind. Code Complete was another one, but this one was the most important. It's written, I believe, in Java. Let me make sure this is the right one. I think it is this one, because I read another book, but this is the one. It's written in Java, which is, at least the syntax looks a lot like JavaScript. So that's something to consider. If you're still learning, JavaScript, go ahead, learn that. Maybe learn this on the side without too much pressure. This is definitely farther along in the journey, but it's helped me a ton. Of course, the Software Developer's Guide by John Sonmez is a great one too. I have a review on that. So Jenna, I know you're learning JavaScript, or you're a web designer now. What are some of the projects that you work for, and if you're able to say, do you use any of these skills at work, like to make web development stuff? Sorry about the wait here. Yes, no, maybe so. Well, we might not ever know, which is okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, if you're watching this at a later time, by all means, drop me a comment if you like this stuff. Give me some of these, or share it with someone that you know, if it could be helpful to them, of course. Subscribe if you haven't, and go ahead and check out some of the other videos here with some of this content, like creating a React portfolio, or dealing with difficult people. Now, Jenna says, my last job I was hired as a graphic designer. Bum bum ba-dum. But you can definitely work into that. Thanks for responding to me either way. Yeah, a lot of people I've seen go to graphic designer jobs and then they transition, and they're able to make the transition themselves, which is cool. Jenna says, I started coding landing pages and found out I only knew how to, and they found out I knew how to code. Yeah, that's luckily for me, I coded first, and so they knew that that's what I was going to do instead of having me do everything. Landing pages can be hard too, so very cool story. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comment section. I'm going to get my day started, get started on this next video for my React portfolio, which is how to research and discovery for this project. All right, thanks for coming. Have a great day. Talk to you later.